South Africa has always been part of this global economic bloc, but now the representation is Africa-wide, and of course, South Africa has been pushing for that. Let's discuss with Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude. Thembisa, great to have you with us as always. What is the significance of this?
Well, it's significant because, as your correspondent said, the inclusion of the AU is key because it represents a much more broader African continent, all along with having President Cyril Ramaphosa being the only voice. But having said that, these developments also dims the limelight on President Cyril Ramaphosa has always been the one champion of African political and economic agenda in all of these platforms. So whether this was, to an extent, trying to suppress President Cyril Ramaphosa's powers and a reaction from the broader G20 leaders that have got clout to an extent, punish President Cyril Ramaphosa for taking some ambivalent positions of the past. We'll have to observe moving forward what will be the role of the AU, whether that it will work closely with South Africa or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's a good addition, but it also sends a very strong message in terms of the confidence that Cyril Ramaphosa enjoyed generally within the G20.
All right, that is a fascinating take. So we will still have South Africa as a member, now the AU as a member on an equal footing with the EU. And like you say, they may even take different stances on different issues. That is very interesting. Let's look at what South Africa is saying, that this bodes well for transformation of multilateral institutions. I mean, the final goal would be the transformation of the UN Security Council, right? How significant is this change in terms of that bigger ideal and changing global financial institutions as well?
Well, I think it's a step towards the direction, but again, I like just to emphasize the point, the fact that, during the G20 summit in Hiroshima, Japan, President Cyril Ramaphosa was not invited. Instead, the African Union was invited. So that in itself communicates a change of position towards Cyril Ramaphosa. But when it comes to the United Nations Security Council, I think it's an important discussion, but at the same time, a dangerous discussion, particularly for South Africa, because I'm of the view that the UN Security Council is a platform where decisions on who lives and who dies are made. And South Africa has often punched way above its weight. I'm not quite sure whether we want to be the club that decides who's condemned and to death and who's supposed to live. Given our weaker borders and given the just, general domestic ill-preparedness when it comes to knowing exactly what's going on in this country. So we are jumping into entering a very, very, unsafe territory. And I think we will need to consider our position very, 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 carefully moving forward, because there are many other multilateral platforms that you can be part of. Platforms that push, for example, encourages peace, platform encourages, the fight against the degradation of our environment. I'm not sure why the UN Security Council, amongst other multilaterals, is prioritized by South Africa.
All right, you said something interesting. It's an unsafe time. And let me ask you this then. Could this inclusion and other inclusions help make the world safer? Because remember, BRICS was represented as an alternative, and some were seeing it as getting stronger and more divisive in terms of the cut between the global north and global south. Here we have a mixing in a very important global institution. Is that the way it should go if we are to return to good relations around the world, the multilateralism that has been lauded by many?
Well, I think platforms such as G20 are important because they're not binding. These are clubs, basically, of countries who enter with the intention of promoting economic cooperation. So that must be encouraged, and I think more countries must join. But you then have other countries that have got a much more significant role to play in terms of effecting certain decision on countries, including United Nations Security Council. So being part of the United Nations Security Council is not child's play, because that's where serious decisions about safety and security of the globe are made. And if, for example, a country like South Africa becomes a permanent member of that platform, and at some point there is a decision to either attack or go against certain groupings in the world that are deemed to be creating havoc, South Africa will be part and parcel of that decision. And I'm of the view that we'll be opening up ourselves for unnecessary attention, scrutiny, and we might just find ourselves wanting in terms of certain people who might be upset by our decision or grieved by the decision coming into this country. And at the moment, given our weaker borders and all that's going on within this country domestically, I am of the view that I don't think South Africa is ready to be tackling or insisting on entering such platforms.